Alright, so this is just a quick video over area and circumference. It's over those notes that we had yesterday. You should already have the notes copied. If you don't, you need to stop this video and go copy them. I'm not going to write everything back down from the notes. I'm just going to go over some basic stuff that you need to know. So I told you to remember that the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to any point on the circle, and that it's half the diameter. And that the diameter is the distance across a circle and it goes through the center. And this is double the radius. Now we have two formulas that we're going to start with. The first one is the area. And you need to know that the area is inside the circle. So if I was to go and color inside the circle, that would be the area of this circle. And the formula for that is pi r squared. So A, which stands for area, is equal to pi r squared. And remember that r is our radius. So super important you know that. Now the second set of formulas we're going to talk about are the circumference. What circumference is kind of like the perimeter for a square, rectangle, any other shape that has those hard lines or edges. The circumference is the distance around the circle, basically the perimeter around the circle. We do have two formulas we can use here. The first one is the easier one, and that's when you're given the diameter. So that's pi times d, and remember that lowercase d stands for diameter. Now the second formula we have is circumference is equal to 2 pi r. This is the scenario where you're given the radius, because remember we talked about the radius is 2 times the diameter, so that's why it's 2 pi r, because we multiply 2 and r to get back to that diameter. You can use either of these formulas. It really just depends on what you're given or what you have to find. So this first example I'm going to do, it says find the area and circumference of a circle with a radius of 4. So first thing we look at what we're given. We're given that this circle has a radius of 4. So I'm going to be looking for the radius, which I already have. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what the diameter is because I use it for one of my formulas. And then the problem asks me for the area and the circumference. So now I'm going to fill in what I know from the problem. I already said my radius was 4. If I have my radius, I can also find my diameter. And remember, all we do to find the diameter is multiply by 2. So 4 times 2 gives me 8 for my diameter. I can now find my area and my circumference since I have both. Remember that area formula is pi r squared, where that r is the radius. So area is equal to, we don't do anything with the pi. I'm going to replace r with 4, and I have squared. I'm now going to carry out what 4 squared is. Remember, 4 squared is the same thing as 4 times 4. So I have pi times 16. And I'm just going to rewrite this. So now I know my area is 16 pi. I just found that out. I'm going to fill it out on the left side. Now I'm going to do my circumference. And since I already found what my diameter is, I'm going to go ahead and use a shorter formula. My circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. So I have pi times my diameter I found was 8. And just like the area formula, I'm just going to rewrite it to have the number in front. So I know that my circumference is 8 pi. So I have found everything. I'm going to check the problem one more time. I asked for the area and circumference. I found the area and I found the circumference. So I'm done with this problem. So example 2, I'm asking you to find the area and circumference just like example 1. But this time I tell you that it's a circle with a diameter of 10. I gave you the radius in the first problem. So over to the left, I'm going to write out everything like we did before. I'm going to find the radius. I'm going to find the diameter, the area, and of course the circumference. So when I look at the problem, I'm given that the diameter is 10. So I'm going to fill that in over here. I know my diameter is 10. Before, I had the radius and I was looking for the diameter, so I multiplied by 2. Here we're going to do the opposite. To find the radius after we're given the diameter, we're going to divide by 2. When I do that, 10 divided by 2 leaves me with 5. Now I have my radius, I have my diameter, I can start finding my area and my circumference. So again, area is pi r squared. I'm going to plug in 5 for the r. I still have pi in the front, and I have 5 squared, or 5 times 5, which is 25. And my area is equal to 25 pi. So I can now fill this in over on the left side. And the last thing I'm going to find is that circumference, which is equal to pi times the diameter. I know my diameter is 10, so I'm going to plug that in. And so that I have the number in front, I'm going to rewrite it. And I know my circumference is 10 pi. I look back at the problem. I was asked to find the area and the circumference. I found the area and the circumference, so I am done with this problem. So example 1 and 2, I gave you the radius or the diameter, asked you to plug into the formulas. Examples 3 and 4, we're actually going to be working backwards. So example 3, I ask you to find the radius and circumference of a circle with an area of 49 pi. So I'm going to go ahead on the left side, still write out radius, diameter, area, and circumference. When I look at my problem, I'm told that the area is 49 pi, so I can fill that in over here. Now I can't divide by 2, multiply by 2 to find anything else. I know so far my area formula is pi r squared. What I have to do is plug in the area that I already know and then solve for my radius first. So I know the area of the circle is 49 pi, and it's equal to our area formula, which is pi r squared. Now I want to get this r squared by itself first, and that pi is stuck to it. It's attached to it by multiplication. So in order to get rid of it, we have to divide both sides by pi. When I do that on the left side, it cancels out, and I'm just left with 49 is equal to, when I do it on the right side, my pi's cancel out, and I'm left with r squared. Now I'm not done yet. I need to get r by itself, and it's squared right now. So the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When I take the square root of r squared, that leaves me with just r. And when I take the square root of 49, that gives me 7. So I just found out what my radius is. I know my radius is 7. I now can find my diameter, because remember, to find the diameter from the radius, you multiply by 2, so that gives me 14. And finally, I need to find the circumference. I remember my circumference is pi times the diameter. I plug in what I know. I know my diameter is 14, and then I just rewrite it, so my circumference is equal to 14 pi. I check my problem one more time. I asked for the radius and the circumference. I look at the left. I found the radius, which was 7, and the circumference, which was 14 pi. So I'm done with this problem. So our last example, example 4, I tell you to find the diameter and area of a circle with the circumference of 8 pi. So on the left side, I'm going to write out radius, diameter, area, and finally circumference, like we have been. Now I'm going to check my problem for what I'm given. I'm only given that the circumference is 8 pi, so I'm going to fill that in on the left side. So just like our last one, we were given the area and we had to solve for something. We solved for our radius. We're going to do the same thing here. I know my circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. I'm going to fill in C with what I was given as my circumference, which is 8 pi, and it's equal to that circumference formula of pi times the diameter. Now I want to solve for this lowercase d, and it's just like that r squared. That pi is stuck to it by multiplication, so to get rid of it, we have to do the opposite. We have to divide both sides by pi. When I do that on the left side, the pi's cancel out, and I'm just left with 8 equals. And on the right side, the pi's cancel out as well, and I'm left with d. So I know that my diameter is equal to 8. Now, since I know my diameter, I can also find my radius. Instead of multiplying by 2, we divide by 2. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4 as my radius, and I can now find my area. So area is equal to pi r squared. Area is equal to pi. Instead of r, I'm going to write what my radius is, which is 4 squared. And then pi times 4 squared is the same thing as 4 times 4, which is 16. And finally, I'm just going to write it so the number is in the front. So my area is equal to 16 pi. Now when I look at my problem, I asked for the diameter and the area, and I found the diameter and the area here. You have problems that go with this quiz. You only have a certain amount of time to do them as well. So you need to make sure that you watch this video if you need them, because you should have already had the notes done except for example 4, and then work on those problems as well because they are a minor grade. Once you log out of it and your time runs out, you cannot get back on to complete it.